Welcome back to the still terribly named OK Not OK podcast. I am the SportsZu, and today we talk about best losses ever. Because even though this isn't the betting podcast, well, I want to talk about it because we went 3-3 in our picks to bet, but admittedly 4-2 in our picks to win. But we're going to focus on those picks to bet, and let's also note that the KO and Orton match was obviously a no contest or simply no match at all. It never even got started due to their brawl, so we can just wipe that one off the boards like it never happened. So let's first do a little quick betting talk before we talk about the three matches that we lost, which were the new Bloodline versus the old Bloodline, Bronson Reed versus Seth Rollins, and the women's Fatal 4-Way for the tag team titles. So first, let's talk about the betting. So one thing I like to do is try to put a little bit of emphasis on picking the underdogs so you get the plus money, because we really don't want you to lose big bucks going with big favorites who end up losing. In this case, that would have been Jade and Bianca going with minus 1,500 when, if they had lost, that would have been a very big hit to the old bank account. So there we certainly wanted to go out on a limb and really thought Lash and Jakara were a good bet there. But let's talk about each of these in turn, because here, let's say we bet exactly $100 on each of the 6 matches that went to a decision. So we'll call a $100 bet 1 unit for us. So if you do a 1 unit bet, that means we put $600 up for grabs and at risk for us. So for the 3 losses, we of course lost $100 each. But for our wins, because we leaned on the underdogs a little bit, that still meant that we were making money for you in the end. Because first, LA Knight, he was a minus 250 favorite. So if we bet $100, that means we won a mere $40. So we got $140 when you count taking your money back and then also what you get for the win. Then for our second win, we had Liv Morgan with the upset victory over Nia Jax to win the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. She was at plus 150, so we won 150 and got our money back, so that's 250 there. And lastly, Cody Rhodes was our big underdog winner this time, because why would you have Cody Rhodes at plus 300? That was just a really great thing. Let's think about this. WWE experience in Saudi Arabia. Who do you want to see there as your first ever Crown Jewel champion? Do you want Gunther or do you want Cody Rhodes? I have a feeling that for all time in the WWE experience, seeing a very beautiful photo of Cody Rhodes holding that Crown Jewel championship was the way to go. So, betting $100, we won $300 and got our money back for that $400. So in the end, we put in $600 and walked home with $790 for a $190 profit. So even with that 3-3 record, not too shabby, we are in the black. So okay, let's turn away from betting a little bit. We're still gonna note the odds here, but we're going to say why this was a great pay-per-view regardless of the betting. So first, the opening match was the new Bloodline taking on the OG Bloodline. The new Bloodline was the big favorite at minus 700, but we had to take Roman Reigns and the Usos at plus 400. I mean, you can't go against Roman Reigns at plus 400, except maybe in that WrestleMania title match last year. But here was the thing. To us, it just seemed like it was too soon for the WWE to give Roman a loss. And the fact that he ended up being the one that took the pin really just escalates this feud a lot more. So what I thought was going to happen was that Sami Zayn was going to come out during the match and he was going to interfere pretty much just like Jey Uso did. Whether he came out in a hoodie or not, I don't know. But he was going to find a way to interfere, and the old Bloodline would find a way to get a win that way too, and Roman Reigns would continue his ridiculous streak of never being able to win without having interference. Now, granted, he continues that streak because he lost this one, but that's not exactly the angle we're taking here. Instead, what we got was a clean win for the new Bloodline, and Sami Zayn didn't even show up until after the match, so we got what we needed. We got Sami Zayn into the old Bloodline so that he's ready to go for Survivor Series, but we also got the new Bloodline looking strong and actually seeming competent with a real legitimate victory. Wow! And Roman Reigns on top of it took the loss when you probably would have guessed that Jimmy Uso would be the one to lose. So how great is all of that coming together? Granted, we had to go sideways with Roman Reigns winning the first time, which was a little surprising if you were going to even things up, but at the time at Bad Blood, we didn't even know if Roman was going to show up for Crown Jewel because we know he likes to just take some time off. Easily could have been written off by getting injured by the new Bloodline at any point and not have to make a trip to Saudi Arabia. Now, we do also know that WWE really lines the old coffers for those Saudi Arabia shows, so yeah, I guess you could say it was likely that Roman wasn't gonna miss both shows in Saudi Arabia this year. So, on top of that, that also means WWE changed their normal pattern of having the heel team win the first match, then the face team winning the second match, and then, of course, usually the face team winning the third match to win the trifecta. So the fact that they changed that around this time is good news for the way WWE does this in the future. And of course, when Roman Reigns and the OG Bloodline win their War Games match, this will of course set Roman Reigns up to finally have some one-on-one matches that lead into WrestleMania and get us wherever they decide to go with it. I think the ultimate goal for this WrestleMania should be the Ulafala and being the head of the table, but of course some people think that he'll just go right on back to facing Cody Rhodes, so who knows? That remains to be seen. Then in our second loss, we had Big Bronson Reed against Seth Rollins. Reed was at minus 175, while Rollins was at plus 135. Here we went with Bronson Reed. It just felt like traditional booking here would get the favorite being Reed, the first win being the heel, and then Rollins would win after that. So we actually lost as a favorite. We do not like doing that. And of course, had we won, we would have won less than $100 betting that one unit. But WWE threw a curveball at us and had Seth Rollins get the win. And I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. Seth Rollins is one of the best and wins almost all of his matches. So I guess we can't be too surprising, but the problem here was that we do really think Bronson Reed needs a win to try to improve his standing a lot more than Seth Rollins needs a win. And we also didn't love the post-match finish where Rollins just left stunned when he saw Reed get up pretty quickly after that third stomp. So it would have been better if Reed had actually gotten up and done some damage to Rollins like he ended up doing on Monday Night Raw. So after Raw, we're kind of right back where we would expect, with Reed now again holding the upper hand, taking it to Rollins, and so obviously we're going to get a second match. But again, this turned out to be a reversal of the normal pattern. So again, 2 matches in a row here, we're talking about a change in the pattern. Now for the Bloodline, that was the second match out of 3. For Reed and Rollins, this was the first match out of 3. But again, here we had the face winning the first match, where the traditional booking would be the heel wins the first ones. Now, I guess in the long-term run, I should have thought about it a little bit more, and I guess I just didn't hit the right angle, where what we really think is happening here is Seth Rollins needs to feed into that monster inside of him in order to ultimately be able to beat Reed. Had he lost to him here and then beat him in a second match, well, then I guess he doesn't really need to keep becoming a monster. So I guess the momentum on monsterdom would have been stalled. So it actually kind of makes sense that he, as the normal Seth Rollins, found a way to win here. Now when he loses the second match to Reed, then he'll really need to tap into being a monster, and that in the third match, by the end of that match, he's gonna look just as villainous and as monstrous as ever. So that will be really the beginning of the heel turn, when he defeats Reed in the third match when he's still a nominal babyface. But the turn is coming, so that under my prediction, when he defeats Gunther and that first Netflix to win the World Heavyweight Championship, we may even get the incredibly rare double turn with Gunther with that very strange little tweak and attitude adjustment that he showed on Raw when he could actually become a babyface. And Rollins officially cements himself as a heel by the end of that match, so that when he faces CM Punk at WrestleMania for the championship, with Rollins as the title holder and a heel, and CM Punk as the challenger and the face, things are just perfectly aligned for that match to be amazing. And in our third match we want to talk about, it is Jade and Bianca defeating everybody else in the women's Fatal 4 match. The only two competitors we care about here are Jade and Bianca, who were at minus 1,500, and Lash and Jakara, who were plus 900. They actually had the worst odds of all four teams, but we thought they actually had the best chance in case WWE wanted to really swerve things on us and put the titles on an NXT duo for the first time since those titles were introduced back in 2019. And I gave the good reasons to do that with the limited time that we have on Raw right now, but unfortunately that didn't work out. Now, I do want to say that I should also take some blame for this and not fully considering that this match was not supposed to even be on the card, because it was supposed to be Raquel and Rhea in a one-on-one match, but because, of course, Rhea was injured, they had to put something else out there, and this was really a great replacement for it. However, that means that whatever pace the WWE wants to go at to try to get to that turn where Jade and Bianca turn on each other, this was simply not a part of that beat that they wanted to hit right there. So really, we were not in a new spot to hit a new beat where Jade and Bianca start to turn on each other, but instead it was just another in the long line of showing them as a dominant team. Now, strangely enough, on that Monday Night Raw that was still in Saudi Arabia, we got that very first tease officially with Jade and Bianca staring at each other in the Battle Royal, which, as the doc said, looked pretty strange when they should have just continued to go for Io and Lyra when they were still clearly in that match. But unfortunately, that's not the way it worked out. But it was the first in the line of teases, so a tease just 2 days later, a little frustrating. But nonetheless, we are still just happy to see that WWE finally changed their course with the Women's Tag Team Championships. Many times we have noted that every single time on an international PLE on the main card, if the Women's Tag Team Championships are on it, we're getting a title change. So they finally broke that after 5 straight times on this one. So I guess it's now just 5 out of 6 times. So we're gonna actually have to pay a little more attention to it going forward. However, at the same time, I bet the next time that they're on a PLE, we just might get that official turn really happening. So that remains to be seen, but for now, it is good to see that it doesn't happen every single time. So in conclusion, what we get as the common thread here is that WWE was a little bit too predictable in following the same beats over and over. First with the heel face face in these 3 series matches, and also with the Women's Tag Team Championships just being used as a way to pop the crowd to get a title change on a particular PLE. But even though it cost us some money this time, that is going to make for a better WWE product going forward, knowing that it's going to be a little bit more interesting, knowing that we can't always know that they're going to go with the standard generic booking. And if you haven't checked out who the doc thinks should be booked as the next #1 contenders, be sure to check out his Who's Next video right here, as well as his answer to the question of the week for who should take on Liv Morgan at War Games. I'm the SportsZu, and this has been the OK Not OK podcast.